All right, Henry, I don't think you need an introduction. Founder and CEO of Zoominfo. You started the company in 2007, grew it over the last 17 years to over $1 billion in revenue and an IPO in, I think, February 2023. So maybe first question, I mean, you've been in business for a long time. You've now seen lots of ups and downs in the market. You've been there pre-ZERP, during ZERP, now post-ZERP. If you had to play macroeconomist for a little bit, like give us a lay of the land where we are right now. What's the appetite for companies buying, selling, and maybe a little outlook for 2025?
Yeah, great. Thank you for having me. The IPO was June of 2020. That's fun. Outlook. Look, I don't think a whole lot is different today than it was when we first kind of turned the corner and realized that the software selling environment was going to be different. And that was probably at the end of 2022. I think there's been a bunch of optimism around things changing or rebounding. And I think in certain segments, they've stayed resilient. So like if you're selling cybersecurity or you're selling, or you're, ServiceNow or really large enterprise tech company, I think those companies have weathered the change in software selling dynamics, much better than most of the other companies. I think just about every publicly traded SaaS company has decelerated from 2022 to today. So growth has meaningfully slowed down across all of the segments of the software economy. That being said, I think that what people today are convinced of is that their businesses, the way they go to market, the way they interact with their employees, the way they service their customers is going to be fundamentally changed by AI. And what they're willing to lean into is product, particularly visionary product, that allows them to deliver the benefits of AI within their different departments, whether that's service or go-to-market or HR or wherever it is. I think companies are leaned into realizing that not getting there fast enough on AI will put them at a competitive disadvantage. I think they're struggling to figure out, like, who do I partner with for that? Because there are a number of like point solutions that do some AI thing. And I think the benefit of trying to piece together 20 point solutions that do something for AI and go to market is probably outweighed by the fact that you have to teach your go-to-market team how to use 20 different point solutions that give them a little bit of productivity benefit. And so I would tell you, I think customers across spectrum, maybe with the exception of SMB that I think is still under a lot of pressure, but everywhere outside of SMB are focused on trying to drive improvement in the way they operate their businesses with AI, and customers are confused about where they should invest and what partners they should pick to invest in to get the most benefit for the longest amount of time.
So I definitely want to talk about AI. For you personally, is this time some of the hardest time to run a company as a CEO? Is it the most exciting? Like, how does it feel to you being in this environment?
Yeah, it's actually both. It is definitely the hardest time, and it also is the most exciting opportunity. Like when you first saw ChatGPT come out, almost 2 years ago, I think for us and for many CEOs that I've talked to, you look at it and you go like, either this is the best opportunity, this is the greatest opportunity in the history of our business, or this is the biggest threat to our business, no question about it. And your decision at that moment really defines whether you're going to be successful or not over the next 5 years. And at Zoominfo, what we did when we saw that, we said, look, we're data, at the core of what we offer is the world's best B2B data. And one of the superpowers of generative AI is the ability to take enormous amounts of data and make sense of it and simplify it, make it easier to consume, drive insights from it. And so we view this as a major opportunity in our business. Now, it's still the toughest software selling environment in the last 17 years, for sure. And the pace of change over the last 2 years is exponentially faster than it was in the last 15 years. Like the last 15 years, the pace of change, there was change, but it was nothing like the last 2 years. And the next 5 years, I anticipate are going to be, just as volatile. And so we have to build organizations that are super agile and can move quickly and don't have a lot of bureaucracy, because the whole universe is changing so much faster than before. And the way that we built software, went to market, enabled our sales teams, engaged with customers, that has to be different in a world that's changing as fast as it is today.
Do you have any tactical tips for CEOs who might be running a much smaller company than you, maybe doing 1 million, maybe 10 million in revenues, and they are adapting more slowly to this whole new environment, especially all the innovation that's possible with AI, than seemingly Zoominfo is? I mean, you guys are pushing ahead there, but still a lot of companies seem to have either resistance, or they're just not adapting fast enough, or it seems just really hard to throw out your whole product roadmap out the window because there's now this new stuff that you got to integrate. Do you have any tactical tips on how to deal with that as a CEO founder?
Yeah, look, I think the biggest tip is, I think as the CEO founder, you definitely feel in your bones the right direction you need to take your company. And the great founder CEOs act on that feeling, and the not great ones rationalize it away. And it's easy to rationalize away like, oh, we have to do this, but there are lots of buts. But if you have to do this, and it oftentimes is going to hurt the feelings of somebody on your team, it's going to get rid of a bunch of sunk costs. It's going to change a roadmap that someone on your team really loves working on. It's going to put your team at risk. You might lose people. It's going to cause chaos in your company because whatever, you're changing the roadmap midstream. You just have to take those risks today. You can't not take those risks today.
Mark, definitely jump in with questions. You can either unmute yourself or just drop it in the chat. I saw your DM to me.
Thank you. Yeah, Henry, thanks for doing this. Great to connect. Mark Furstein, CEO of Recapped. I have a question, I guess, piggybacking off of that. If, given everything that we're seeing in the consolidation and the AI, especially in sales and MarTech, if you guys were to go to market today, like Finn said, as $1 million, $5 million, $10 million company, what would you guys do differently? How would you think about going to market, given that, there's players in the space, let's call it the big four, big five, that are trying to do a little bit of everything and are eating away a lot of this point solution, kind of go to market plays, if that makes sense?
Yeah. So, and you're saying if I went to market with anything, or if I went to market with Zoominfo?
I mean, we could use Zoominfo, or I guess anything, right? If you're still selling the same audience that you were, curious how you would think about differentiation and going against the bigger players with consolidation.
Yep. So 2 things there. One is, if I think the way that the change in the software selling environment manifests when we're actually face to face with a client is where historically I could show you something that increases productivity, and you could look at it and you would go yeah, I could see how that would drive productivity for my sales reps, or make them a little bit better, or give them a special insight. That was enough to get a DocuSign across the line in 2021 and early 2022. Today, that is not enough. People need to be compelled with a very clear business case, an investable business case that shows ROI, and that ROI needs to be big enough that I'm going to actually prioritize this thing to all of my sales team. It has to be really clear. It has to be a priority in my business. It's got to apply across most of my organization, if not all of it. And then I have to be able to tie a real ROI behind it, because I mean, that is the fundamental difference. Getting somebody to act today on moving forward with a net new purchase requires an incredibly strong return on investment case that maybe you didn't have to have before. So if I move that back to the product, does the product you have demonstrate ROI in a very clear, reportable way? Because if it can't demonstrate it in a clear, reportable way, that's a really tough thing to make an investment on today. And so you're either like ServiceNow or Workday, where you're a very clear system of record for IT and HR, and you can show up and it's like, well, what else are you going to do? Or you're not them, and you have to show up and have a real investable ROI case that you can deliver. And it can't be soft, and it can't be like, it has to be really obvious and reportable. It's got to be reportable. And so if you're expecting people to act on a net new purchase today, you have to show up with real reportable ROI. Then if I go to the sort of the first question, which is like, what would you do? It is hard to be great at everything for everybody. So I would pick a niche and I would be really great inside of that niche. And whatever that is, like I would look at what I think Salesforce is going to ignore or Zoominfo is going to ignore, and I'd be really great in that area. And I'd go target customers. Ideally, it's a niche where there's customer concentration. So when we started Zoominfo, our first audience was companies that sold to IT decision makers. And so you could buy Zoominfo and I could still show up and go like, yeah. Zoominfo is great for everything, but we're super deep on the technical decision maker. And so if you're selling to the CTO or the CIO or the VP of IT, we have a tremendous amount of depth around that buyer that nobody else has. So definitely keep on buying Zoominfo, but for your healthcare reps, your Brazil reps, your freight and logistics reps, your financial services reps, your IT software reps, I have a solution for them that's differentiated and deep, and I can report ROI back on it.
Mark, did that answer your question or follow up on that?
No, it did. Thank you. I think it's also too, given everything that has changed, it's not just good enough to be the number one business case in the sales tool. It has to be the number one business case across all three initiatives that the business is doing, because people aren't making 10 investments anymore. They're making 3. So thank you.
Yep. I would also tell you, if I go to an enterprise meeting, the first thing obviously I'm trying to do is to understand as much as I can about the company and its priorities. And I have a sense for it from what I can research in Copilot at Zoominfo, but I'm sitting down and trying to get it from them. And this is basic enterprise sales, but you want to be able to attach yourself to a priority at the business. And so the more you built a relationship of trust with your counterpart at the company, the more they're going to be willing to share with you about what the priorities of their business is. And then the more you have an opportunity to attach what you're selling and building to that priority. I've walked out of meetings and just been like, there was nothing that I could attach to. And then that's a really tough place to be. The company's setting priorities. You should be able to attach to those priorities.
Maybe to expand on this analogy a little bit, let's say you were starting a new Zoominfo today and you picked a niche and you're only doing contact data for companies selling to technical buyers. How would you think through how to get your first set of customers? Would you go to events? Would you do LinkedIn? Would you do cold calling? How would you think through in this new landscape and all the new tools and all the new channels, how to get your first couple sets of customers?
The answer is it depends. And it depends on who your segment is. LinkedIn is a great place to write thought leadership for salespeople because they live on LinkedIn. They're there all day. If I walk down the hall right now, all my sales reps are on LinkedIn. Are they all using LinkedIn to prospect? No, they're scanning the feed and it's, sanctioned social media at the office. But it looks like work, so they can go do LinkedIn and get away with it. But they're on LinkedIn. And so if I'm selling to a sales audience, then, thought leadership, thought marketing on LinkedIn is probably hugely valuable and important. If I'm selling to IT decision makers in the enterprise, I'm not really spending that much time on LinkedIn. And so I think figuring out who your segment is, and then who your segment is it SMB, is it enterprise, who your buyer is, and then going to the place where they live. And if there isn't a place where they're living, if it's not as easy as sales reps on LinkedIn, then you have to think about how am I going to reach them? Am I going to reach them through events? Am I going to reach them through email, cold email, cold calls? I think one of the things that was really successful for us in the early days was we sold to companies that sold to IT decision makers. And guess what? There are a whole bunch of conferences that are focused on companies that sell to IT decision makers, where us having a booth made no sense. So like VMworld or Red Hat had a big conference, or these big security conferences, or Amazon's large conference, partner conference. It's all IT vendors there, hundreds, thousands of them. And guess who's manning those booths? Heads of sales, heads of marketing. And so we would show up at those conferences. We wouldn't take a booth. We would just go around booth to booth to booth, and we talk to the people who are there. It was a target-rich audience. So that's probably what I would tell you. Find the most target-rich audience and go there. If you're selling to salespeople, target-rich audience is LinkedIn. If you're selling to sales leaders of technology companies, there are events that are really target-rich audiences. And so where's the most target-rich audience that you could go to? And then if that doesn't exist, then you're on the phone, then you're in email, then you're trying to figure out when is the right time for me to engage with this company, and how can I personalize messaging that makes it clear I've spent time thinking about the company, or at a minimum, I've leveraged data that's available that tells me this is the right time to reach out to this company, and this is the reason for that.
Right. And Natalie, I see your hand. We'll do your question next. Just case in point, we're working with a company right now that actually just does intent signals for companies who sell to technical buyers. And they scaled from 0 to now 1.5 million ARR since January. And they do exactly that. They go to AWS, reInvent, and they just go from booth to booth and sell their tool to the sales team.
I still got it.
There you go. You
$1.5 million is a long time ago, but I could still lay out the strategy for it.
Hey, let's go. All right, and Natalie, your question.
And it's only, we can't hear you.
You're muted. Not muted, actually, but somehow can't hear you.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah. Hey, Henry, do you remember?
Of course I remember. Yeah. Of course. And I talk to Ariel all the time.
All right. Well, we were, CareVoice was just reacquired by Definitive Health.
I know.
So
I know.
They're
right down the street here. Yeah.
Yeah. That's so funny. Anyway, I'm on to the next one. And, I think that there's a huge opportunity in SMBs, especially ones that are transitioning for ownership from older folks to younger folks, right? There's like a huge transition right now, like the search funds right now are looking for, garage door businesses that are operated by baby boomers, right? Let's buy them out, roll them up. That's not really who I'm talking about, but I'm talking about like the let's say mid-market SMBs and mid-market companies in a very specific niche. And, sometimes they're accessible through these conferences. By the way, the conference thing worked amazing for us. We didn't have a booth. We just walked around. We sold to heads of sales. It was by far the best investment. It's like $2,000
right.
for, like 30, 50, 100 leads.
Yeah.
Anyway, so SMBs, like you mentioned earlier, like it's a tough buying environment for SMBs. Let's say you're not targeting the enterprises. Let's say, enterprises like super low sales cycle, not super interested, hugely well served, right? So like really hard to break in for a startup. But SMBs, I think, in mid markets are probably easier. Like, how would you go about, breaking into the SMB market, especially with like a technology solution? Really kind of focusing on that transition of folks, new leadership coming into the SMBs. Big question, but selling into SMBs in the mid-market and the mid-market, yeah.
Selling into, let me just try to say it back. selling into SMBs and mid-market companies when they're transitioning leadership from one generation to the other, or not at that moment?
So pre that moment, as folks are kind of like thinking about the transition and at the moment of transition, the idea then, like the meta question is, let's say older folks are not as eager to invest into technology. I think that there is a transition that's happening right now where folks are taking over some of these businesses and they are more eager to invest into technology. And so it's a really interesting opportunity to sell technology solutions into these organizations, maybe not at the price point of Salesforce, but maybe at a significantly reduced price point. But, there's way more SMBs. So that's the question.
Yep.
It's a big question.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I just want to think about it for a second.
Sure.
The first thing I think about is what are the signals that would tell you that the company might be in the midst of that type of leadership transition or considering it? And where can you gather that signal? And so I would tell you, it's like, how do I build a universe of companies where the CEO has been there for 20 plus years and there's like a president or chief operating officer who's new? Like, how do I build that universe? And I'm probably going...
So that's an internal acquisition, in other words.
Yeah, or I'm just... Yeah, right. Well, you want that company where it's like set up for that.
That's right.
So,
it's like a transition plan in place. Yeah.
Yep. And so then I'm probably trying to capture LinkedIn bios or leadership bios that say like, CEO has had 30 years of experience leading the company or 20 plus years of experience. So I'd look like for years of experience in a description. And then I'd look for a president who's like, joined us recently or joined us in 2000, whatever, 20 something. And I'd probably try to build an audience around those folks. That's not the easiest thing to do right now. Then, the next thing that comes to mind is if I'm a CEO of a company that's considering transitioning, then I probably told my financial advisor that I'm thinking about transitioning the business or I'm thinking about getting out of the business. And so then is there an opportunity to partner with financial advisors or, what are they doing before they make that transition that you could glom onto or connect to? And then, so actually I have a better way then. Let's say we build the universe around like SMBs and mid-market companies of a certain size in a certain location or all across the United States. I'd set up that universe and then I'd set an alert for any time they hire a new senior level executive. And so anytime they hire a COO, president, CFO, head of something, I would use that as a signal to tell me that they're trying to set up succession in the business, particularly if there's like an older founder. And then I'd start narrowing the universe that way.
Yeah, this is great. Thanks, Andy. I really appreciate it. I don't want to monopolize time.
How's
Congratulations, by the way.
Yeah, thank you.
Great. Yeah, Portland is awesome. How's Vancouver?
Great.
Are you in Newark, Massachusetts right now?
Yeah, I'm in Boston right now. Yeah.
Okay, got it. All right. Well, have a great day.
Good to see you.
Yeah, likewise.
Thanks for your question. Tristan, you're next. You got your hand raised.
Woohoo! Thank you so much for hosting this session. And it was so good to see you, Henry, at Dreamforce. Hope you and your family loved ones are well. I'm still living in that era, apparently. You see my backdrop for more information. I do want to pivot a little bit here, too, because when it comes to founder-led marketing, LinkedIn specifically, we know per CEO.com, the companies that have CEOs that are engaging in social media and making posts have a 46% higher stock rate than those that do not. So we know founder-led marketing is important. I'm curious for you, what are founders doing wrong when it comes to interacting and engaging on LinkedIn that you wish they would stop? And maybe what are a few pro tips from your opinion?
Sure. I think there's a lack of authenticity on social, which is like, look, it's kind of sounds like, marketing-y words, but like, I don't just post every time there's like a interesting thing to like, every time I have a thought to post or every time we have a new product offering or, every press release that we issue, I'm not out there posting every single thing. I'm posting when I have a unique point of view on something, or I have a unique perspective on something, or I had like an idea for something that should go on social that I worked with our teams to build and develop and release. And so I think like try anything that's inauthentic is like, it's just, you can see it from a mile away. Like if every post I starts with like, you know, the tagline of the company, it's like, okay, this is just like not even fun to engage with it. And so like the same way influencers become popular is how a CEO would become engaging. They're specific, they're relevant, they have interesting content, they're really authentic. Then I heard this a while ago and thought it really resonated with me, which is you would think that to build an engaging following, that you would want as large of an audience as possible. When in reality, it's actually the opposite. The more specific of an audience you can speak to, the better, because that audience is going to relate to you in a different way. Like if I go try to build a really broad audience, I'm not actually going to speak to anybody's like heart or soul. If I decide the audience that I want to talk to are founders and CEOs and people in sales at any company, I think I can talk to that audience in a really authentic way. It's a specific group of people. They have challenges that I understand. I felt their pain in every sense of the way. If I can show up and speak to them only and just ignore the rest of them, then I can build a pretty good audience. So like, who like do I know that when I sit down with, like we can like connect in a deeper way, and can I bring that to bear on social media? That's how I would think about it. You got to be authentic. You can't post all the time. You can't just be posting everything that your company posts unless you're like especially excited about it. I think those are the things that I would share. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What's one thing you'd see leaders stop doing other than being billboards, being inauthentic and trying to please everyone with their posts?
One more thing. What's one other thing I would tell leaders to stop doing on posting on social?
AI comments.
Hot takes.
Too many hot takes. I think one thing that you're doing really well, Henry, and that's actually what one of the things that how I feel like you're very different to other CEOs, especially of publicly traded companies, is your commenting game on LinkedIn. Like I've seen this now a couple times where you comment on someone else's post who tagged Zoominfo and they said something about it, but both positive and negative. Like someone who's like, hey, we had our renewal contract coming up and it's, you know, we looked at the data and it was amazing and Zoominfo won. You kind of share that. But then also, I think I saw it a couple times where someone called Zoominfo out and they're like, this is shit, it's not working, blah, blah. And you actually commented on it with something, you can send me an email or I don't know, but it felt like, you know, that's something you see very rarely any CEO do, let alone someone who's running a, 3,500 people organization. So anything to say on that?
Like, look, if you're a founder, you know that when you see like a negative comment, you're like, it hurts you in a different way than like, anybody else at your company. I went through like a phase where I was like, I don't understand why these people are not responding to these comments. Like, you're the product leader for this and they're complaining about the product. Like, how are you not immediately moved to respond? And it just hits different when you built the thing. And actually, like any negative comment anywhere about Zoominfo, you could probably draw a line to some decision that I've made at some point, either like to invest in an area, to not invest in an area, to bring in a new leader, not bring in a new leader, to drive strategy this way or that way. Like any negative thing I can see and go like, okay, like that is a function of a decision that I made at some point that has led to this bad experience. And so like you feel personally responsible for the negative feedback in a way that's different than anybody else at the company who just like inherited their department, their product, their team. Like for me, you say something negative about Zoominfo, I know I'm personally responsible through some decision that I made at some place that has led to that negative experience. And so there's a bigger feeling of personal responsibility for me than maybe lots of other folks. And so when I see a positive comment or a negative comment, you know, I'm moved to engage in a different way than maybe not a founder CEO.
On the mode, yeah. What are some of the biggest mistakes that you've made building Zoominfo that you should have not made if you had just thought about it a little bit longer?
Look, I think like any founder CEO would tell you, like if you're founder CEO on this, just like pre-think of your answer to this question. It's almost always about people. Like it's almost always about the person either I didn't hire soon enough, I didn't let go fast enough, I didn't like see issues in their collaboration, their execution, I didn't see it fast enough, and then I didn't act fast enough. And so like, you know, anything strategically that didn't go our way over the last almost 18 years, you can draw back to a bad decision around org design, people, supporting people with more resources, changing people out, upgrading talent, demanding something different from your people, getting rolled over. You know, like in the Chesky founder mode thing, the thing that resonated most with me was like the feeling of being gaslit in your own company. Like you feel really strongly about something and the people around the table are gaslighting you, and you walk away like kind of confused and questioning yourself. And then 3 months later, you realize like you lost 3 months because you were made to feel that way. And so I think largely it is around it's around people decisions. I would have acted faster. I would have upgraded sooner. I would have like seen faults quicker, all of that.
Curious to get your take. Maybe this is because I'm in a little bit of a bubble, and obviously we do follow that marketing. But one thing that I kept hearing over and over in sales calls with founders is that they said something along the line of product is not the differentiation anymore. This idea that you can have a 10x feature that wins you deals over competitors is not that much of a reality anymore because it's so easy to just copy and all the solutions are kind of comparable. And with AI, you can build it very quickly. And that now the differentiator is go-to-market. Who has a more clever go-to-market? Who does better marketing? Who has a better brand? Who's more present? Do you have a take on this? Do you agree, disagree?
I largely disagree. Like, obviously, I think go-to-market is incredibly important. And if you don't have a great go-to-market organization, you're disrespecting your product and engineering people and all of the innovation that they're building. And so it's not just about being great at sales. It's about respecting the work that your product and engineering counterparts are doing. I think that's largely overlooked. And people are like embarrassed to say they're a sales-led organization or that sales is really important at their company, when really all they're saying is like, we're never going to let an opportunity pass us by where we can honor the work that our product and engineering and innovation teams are doing. And like, that is absolutely true. If you're a product person or an engineering person and you go to work at a company that doesn't have a great go-to-market organization, like you are basically saying, I'm fine pouring my blood, sweat, and tears and all of my innovation capacity into a product that actually is never going to make an impact out in the market, or is never going to make a big enough impact out in the market because our go-to-market teams are just not good enough, just not optimized, just don't know how to get my ideas out to market. So like, if you're a great product and engineering person, I would lean towards finding a great go-to-market organization to partner with, because those are the folks who are taking your great ideas to market and convincing people to pay their hard-earned money for the innovation work that you've done. But if you do not have a great product, you might be able to win the customer, but you're not going to be able to keep the customer. And so maybe great product doesn't come to bear when acquiring new customers. Maybe I can, like, if there are 3 companies that look the same, that with my product that is not as great or as differentiated as the other 2, I can win you, but I'm not going to be able to keep you. And so great product is what drives net retention in your business. And so go-to-market, tremendously important, support, tremendously important. But the way you keep customers for a lifetime is you build a really great product that solves a really acute problem in their business.
All right, I'll do one more question, then Natalie will do your question. Again, I don't know if this is a LinkedIn bubble, but I feel like especially with all these new AI tools out there, there's so many buzzwords and trends: inbound-led, outbound, and signal-based selling, and funnel-led marketing. And I'm just curious for you to cut through that bullshit a little bit and maybe separate noise from signal and tell me like what's real and what's actually really going to change about sales and go to market in the next, I don't know, 2 years, and what's just hype and buzzwords and people trying to market their stuff to you.
Yeah. What's really going to change is, probably two things. Look, first, when I think about go-to-market and I think about people building AI for go-to-market, the vast majority of people trying to build AI for go-to-market are married to the CRM system. And the CRM system, for all of the things that it's great at, has terrible data in it. And it doesn't have a full view of your total addressable market. And the data that it has in it is largely inaccurate, not enriched, not kept up to date. And so the idea that I can go build go-to-market AI agents on top of the data in my CRM system is incredibly flawed, and everybody knows it who goes and tries to do it. And so if your system is married to CRM data, the AI agent is never going to deliver you the results that you expected to. You're going to become incredibly frustrated. And second, even if you go try to clean up all the data in your CRM system to build an AI agent on top of it, you're never going to have your whole total addressable market in your CRM. And for you to actually be able to recommend someone to reach out to give good insights on an account, to tell you when to reach out, to tell you who to reach out to, you have to have a full view of your total addressable market. It can't just be based on your CRM data. And so, like, the first thing that we do when we think about the future of go-to-market is, what is the foundational data asset that you actually need to build AI agents on top of? And it's not your CRM data. We believe that it's your CRM data merged with the most accurate B2B data and signals to create what is essentially a virtual CRM layer that then you build AI agents on top of. You want an SDR agent to call the most likely to convert company? You're not going to get it from your CRM system. You should be looking for companies that are displaying signals that the last 40 companies you closed were displaying before they became your customers. And that signal doesn't live inside of your CRM data, and it doesn't live inside of Snowflake. It's a combination of your first-party data and third-party data and insights to drive your next best action. So I do believe that signal-based go-to-market is absolutely the future of how we go to market. But I don't think that signal lives inside of your CRM system, and I don't think it lives inside of your marketing automation or your sales automation system. I think those are important inputs to a data foundation that drives the next generation of AI solutions. And if you haven't figured that out, regardless of what you're trying to build for go-to-market AI, it's going to not deliver the results you expect it to.
And it's not that signal-based selling is new. I think you posted something about that recently. It's just there's new signals and there's easier and better ways to track them now.
Yeah, like the post that I posted was Michael Dell in 1982 was selling newspaper subscriptions in Austin or Houston. And one of the things that he realized was when people just got married or they just moved into town, that they were more likely to buy a newspaper subscription. So what did he do? He took a big computer down to the county marriage license office, and he said, I'm doing a Freedom of Information Act request for all of the marriage licenses that have been filed over the last 6 months. And they were like, okay. And they gave him a big stack of papers of all the people who recently got married. He typed them all into his computer and he went back, and then he was shooting fish in a barrel. When everybody else was calling a broad audience, he was calling the audience most likely to convert. So you don't have to go down to the Harris County office to do an FOIA request anymore. But what you want to do is partner with the provider who's gone out and gathered as much signal data as possible, because a signal that matters to me might not matter to you, and a signal that matters to you might not matter to me. And so you want a large corpus of signal data that you can apply to your company and use AI to understand this signal matters to me. It doesn't matter to the next person. And this specific signal and these 4 signals together actually indicate a much higher likelihood to convert than the next company. And then you need to deliver that to sales reps to take action on. Now, will sales reps always be the only ones taking action on that? No. In the future, you will have an AI agent that can help you take action on that. You will have teamed with you in a co-pilot, someone who's going to go help you send emails and make phone calls for you. There is an opportunity for that in the future, for sure.
I love how all answers lead down to Zoominfo. And Natalie, go for it.
When, 98% of your mind is taken up thinking about your company, most of the way you think about the world ends up layering back to your...
No, I love it.
Anatoly, you're on mute.
I'll figure it out at some point. Okay, guys. Thanks for taking my question. So the question is this. So with AI enablement, I was really struck by what you said, and I love the framing of, your go-to-market, needs to, you need to have a high-quality go-to-market to respect the high-quality product that you're building. But I would also say, at least in my experience in the last few years, scaling clairvoyance, customer success, especially a high-quality customer model really, retains customers extremely well, even if we had, maybe the product is not awesome. Our product was awesome, of course it was, but our customer success is even more awesome, and that I think resonated with our customers really well. So I guess the question I'm asking is this: how are you thinking about the the software as a service shift to service as a software from a delivery point of view for kind of how you make your customers, help your customers become even more successful with these tools? Because even Zoominfo, you don't have 100% utilization, right? And lots of these tools in the enterprise don't have 100% utilization. So I'd love to get your thoughts on this, especially as we all want to drive our NDR, net dollar retention up.
Yep. So look, I think first, this comes back to the product. I think a lot of the work that we try to do with customer success reps is to make up for a gap in the product's usability, the product's simplicity. Your route to value is not perfect. And so you plug those holes with customer success managers, customer delivery managers, who essentially, they make up for the lack of simplicity with your product. So I still believe fundamentally that most of the stuff that we're doing with our customer success managers or customer delivery managers are to make up for a gap in the product and a gap in our customers' ability to get value quickly from our product. And we plug that with customer success managers. Where I haven't seen customer success work is when it's broadly distributed. And so there's a customer success team, there are 120 customer success managers. Their job is broadly dispersed throughout the company. There's some over here, some over there. I think where I've seen it work is when it's really specialized. And so we have a team of customer success and customer delivery managers on our marketing platform. That marketing platform requires people who understand ad operations and ad analytics and ad reporting, that are engaging with sophisticated demand generation marketers. When you couple those two groups together, they're super valuable and they drive real results. When they're left to do more of a tier 3 support role, or even a tier 1 or tier 2 support role, which is very easy to fall into, that's where I see it not drive a tremendous amount of value in organizations. So if it could be super special, so my advice would be, can you make it super specialized? 1, and then 2, make sure that you're also working on solving the gaps in the product that require the customer success manager to be there in the first place. You probably never get to completely zeroing them out, but that is what you want to try to iterate towards.
All right, we got 5 minutes
Thank
here
you.
left with Henry. So Brenda, you go first, and then David, maybe we can squeeze you in. So Brenda, Henry, try to keep your answer short to Brenda, so we can
Okay.
try to fit both in. Go for it, Brenda.
Hi, Brenda.
Hello, Henry. Nice to meet you in person since I
Nice
connect
to
with
meet
you
you
on
too.
LinkedIn. And thank you for this. My question is, I noticed that you speak a lot about human behavior and you're very in tune. You have a lot of passion and how you do business is what I'm learning more now. My question is twofold. What is a book that you recommend that's related to that topic? Because I feel you're very strongly into that topic. And two, I have had businesses where, let's say I'm selling a lot and then suddenly I'm about to scale and like I get into like a mode of like, how am I going to do this? How am I going to scale? How am I going to service the clients that need my services or products? So I'd like to what is it that you did to overcome and I don't know, maybe confidence or maybe the people that you have in place or the systems you have in place to be able to overcome that fear of growth, of scaling?
Yeah, cool. Thanks, Brenda. Good to meet you too. I'm passionate about everything, not just Zoominfo. Like, I love a good argument about anything. Like, I love arguing any points. I'm super passionate about anything. Like, and I like taking a contrary point of view to see like whether I'm right or wrong. So nobody would find me passionate in business and not passionate everywhere else. A book that I've read that connects to that, I'll give you two. I read a book called The Happiness Advantage by Sean Aker, who did research about teams that are happier, perform better, and drive better productivity. It's a nice read. And then I recently read Steve Jobs' biography by Walter Isaacson, which, Steve Jobs was an incredibly passionate leader. And so it's never not fun to read about, other passionate leaders and how passionate they are about their craft. I don't know what advice to give on the second one, except that I can take you through a moment where I felt like that. In the early days of Zoominfo, I was responsible for sales. My co-founder was responsible for like data and product. And we had a competitor who was very well funded and had like 25 salespeople, and they had an executive team that came from other information services companies, and the team continued to grow. And I had 4 salespeople. And I remember driving to my office one afternoon, and just like the thought entered my head, like, your responsibility was to build a sales team. And your competitor has 25 salespeople, and you're a loser because you have 4 salespeople, and you suck, and that was your one thing to do, and you couldn't even do it well. So before you look around at your co-founder or other places and complain about this thing not being good or that thing not being good, don't you forget your responsibility was to build a sales team, and you're not doing it. And that, I had a lot of clarity at that moment. I went okay, that's right. That is my job. I have to go build a sales team. What am I going to do over the next month to not feel like I'm failing at the one job that I had? And then I sat down and I did a bunch of stuff. I put ads on Craigslist. I got on all of the university job boards. I started interviewing more. I started thinking about it. These are problems that you can solve if you can pressure yourself into taking it 100% seriously to solve. So I think that is probably my advice. You go, lots of other people have solved it. You're not less hardworking or dumber than those other people. You probably are just not focused on it with the intensity necessary to solve it. And you should focus on it with the intensity necessary to solve whatever that thing is. And then you'll solve it, you feel good about it, and move on to the next thing that you're upset about.
Thank you.
All right, David, you'll have a hard time getting a better answer out of Henry, but you guys got 1 minute left. Fireside, here. Go quick.
Yeah, gonna fly through it. Henry, by the way, thanks for building a great product. I just became SVP for the first time in my life over sales, and a lot of that comes from success with Zoominfo. So thank you.
Dan, congratulations.
Thank you. I real quick. So I work for a peer community for tech-focused CEOs and founders, and we've actually had amazing success with a lot of growth that's all founder led, and he's got a very big podcast following, etc. That said, now that I'm coming into this role, I'm trying to actually diversify more of our channel engagement and actually push more product led growth. So just at a high level, do you have any insights or things to watch out for as we actually try to do the opposite of moving and diversifying away from founder led growth back to a more traditional go to market strategy?
And David, the customers are other tech CEOs.
The customers are tech, CEOs and founders of companies that are using tech in some way. It's like a new school, if you will.
And when you say product-led growth, how do you mean?
Like the communities, we wanted to sell itself, just the experience, the member experience, right? Instead of just people that are hearing about it from the founder channel.
And does that mean like get people into the experience and then let them decide if they want to be customers?
Correct.
Look, I follow Sam on Twitter, and it's great product market fit. Like it's really great product market fit. And so what I would be trying to do is drive as many people to experience some part of the product as possible. You have a defined audience. They're easy to find. They're easy to connect with. And you have a super differentiated value proposition, right? Like everybody showing up to these tech founders and CEOs is pitching them about something that's going to drive productivity in their business. And you're pushing social connection and networking with other like-minded tech CEOs. That's like not showing up in their inbox. That's not showing up in conversations they're having. And so I would leverage the fact that you have a defined audience. And then I would leverage the fact that you have great product market fit and a differentiated value proposition. And I would drive them to experience some part of the event or some part of the community as soon as possible. And my sense is once they experience, they probably convert at an incredibly high rate. And so your funnel is like, how do I get them into an experience where I know if you get me to one of those events and I'm surrounded by a bunch of other tech CEOs who are talking about the struggles in their business, like I'm coming back. And where I've engaged with those communities, I've always had a good output. So like, how do I get that differentiated messaging in front of as many of these guys as possible to get them to an event?
Amazing. Thank you so much.
All right, David, thank you for that question. Henry, thank you for your time. This was awesome. I got to ask about 2% of my questions, but I think this was the goal here, have a community event. Appreciate you and enjoy the rest of your day.